Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers. On the broadcast today, we're joined by Selena La Rue. She's running for re-election in Assembly District 25. Here for the whole show on an all-new Nevada Newsmakers. Southwest Specialties has been making the homes and businesses of Nevada beautiful for more than 20 years. Their experienced designers and craftsmen create the walkways, backyards, water features, and a variety of outdoor cooking areas that add curb appeal and value to your investment. Call today or visit them at their website and see how they can make your outdoor spaces special. Southwest Specialties, creative, distinctive, beautiful.
Turn your clunker into a caddy during the Cadillac and Cash giveaways at Tamarack Casino. Weekly cash drawings including $5,000 cash and one top prize of $10,000. Win the grand prize of a Cadillac CT4 or $40,000 in cash. Your good times are at Tamarack Casino.
As you know, Reno is booming. Toll's Development Company is helping it grow with insightful design and development, building community with every project, adding beauty, adding excitement, emphasizing our shared humanity. Reno is becoming bigger. Toll's development is helping it become better, more livable, more enjoyable. To learn more, go to tollsdevelopment.com. tollsdevelopment.com.
For 50 years, Nevada Heating has been keeping people comfortable in their homes. At Nevada Heating, call the Do It Right guys and get the air conditioning back on today. That's the Nevada Heating way. Why sweat for days on end when Nevada Heating can get your air conditioning fixed today? Call us today and we'll fix it today at 323-5585 or schedule us on our website at nevadaheating.com.
Save money and take transit. Did you know you can ride the bus all day for less than what it would cost you for a gallon of gas? Plan your trip now by going to rtcwashoe.com.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad, a no-holds-barred political forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we're delighted to welcome back to the program Selena La Rue. She's running for re-election for Assembly District 25. Pleasure to have you back on the program.
It's a delight to be here.
Thank you. You're a teacher. Let's start out there. What do you teach? Where do you teach?
So I teach world history at North Valleys High School here in Reno.
Okay, and what is the interest in world history?
Oh, I absolutely love history, and in world history I get to talk a little bit about everywhere, all over the planet, which is awesome. And really it's the only time our kids are exposed to the rest of the world's history, which I think is critical in an increasingly globalized society.
To say the least, and it always surprises me how many Americans don't travel outside of the United States, or they go to Mexico or Canada perhaps, but when you talk to them about other places in the world, they're like, I don't know. Does that surprise you?
It's not totally surprising. I think it's an affordability thing, at least for a lot of my students, but I think at least learning about the rest of the world is so critical to understanding why it is the way it is, because so many different cultures shaped even our lives today, and it's important to understand it.
All right, what's the biggest issue you find in the classroom today as you deal with it? And the reason I'm asking you this is we have teachers' unions, and they fight to get teachers better salaries and conditions and all the rest, and that's all great. But then you have actual teachers like yourself who teach.
Yeah.
And there's a big difference between those two, in my opinion. It's almost like campaigning and then being in office. They're really almost two different things. So what's the reality for you in the classroom?
So I would say, obviously, I am a member of a teachers union, so
right, and that's fine.
I will say I think that they are made up of members, and you're right. The union leadership is in Carson fighting the fight and talking with the Board of Trustees. And I think that the pay and the benefits are important, because I think working conditions are learning conditions. And if we can't attract good quality teachers, our kids are going to suffer. I think in the classroom, beyond that issue of pay and benefits and other stuff, the main issue is class size. We have the largest class sizes in the nation. And my classes, for example, I have between 35 and 38 in each of my 6 classes. And just 2 years ago, I had 45 students in some of my classes. And so I think that's one of the big issues that I really want to tackle, and I think that the union as well wants to tackle next session as well.
Okay, and that's totally understandable. That's a huge amount, especially 45 is an insane amount. Yeah. Do you have teachers' assistants in those size classes, or is it just you?
It's just me and 45 15-year-olds. So it's a lot.
Wow. Yeah. So last session, $2 billion plus went into education. How did that benefit education? Because, you know, for a lot of us, you know, we hear these numbers, you know, a billion was a lot of money. I mean, when we first started Newsmakers 20 odd years ago, the $2 billion babies were $1 billion for the university system and $1 billion for K through 12. Now, we just added $2 billion in the last session. So how has that played through the system? I mean, you know, when people hear that, they just go, well, when is enough enough?
Right.
Obviously, you don't think that that's enough, and the unions don't think that's enough, but what are you looking for?
So I think $2 billion is an extreme amount of money for any average Nevadan, right? That's some money I will never see personally as a teacher. But I think we have to put it in the context of decades of chronic underfunding of our education system. When we put that $2 billion in, we were 48th in the nation in per pupil funding. Now, they haven't recalculated those numbers yet because we have to see it work through the system, but I would imagine we're still going to be in the 40s, even with that $2 billion investment. And so while it was critical, and I think it has helped, I think it has led to the record pay increases that we got this last contract. And if your listeners don't know, Washoe County teachers got about 20% in increase, and our support professionals got about 19% in increase, which is a lot and really helpful. But again, on average, a teacher can make 20% more in the private sector than they can in the public sector. And so it was essential to staunch the bleeding of teachers leaving to make more money elsewhere. And so while I think it was an important investment, we have to continue that investment because now we've invested in pay. Now we need to address class size. Now we need to address facilities. Now we need to address all these other things that have been chronically underfunded.
Okay, so on just taking the facilities portion of that, is that not more of a local issue than it is a state issue?
It is a local issue where locals are handling it. So WC1 in Washoe County is helping pay for facilities, and I think that's been transformational to Washoe County education.
Right.
Not every county has that, and not every county necessarily has the ability to do that. White Pine, for example, is really struggling with schools that are over 100 years old. They don't have much of a tax base. They don't have much in the way of property values, even if they were to pass a WC1 type of initiative. And so I do think at a statewide level, we need to at least look at how are we supporting local municipalities or counties to get the facilities that they need. Because we can never address class size if we don't also address facilities, because we need the classrooms to put those teachers in.
Okay, what kind of money do you think is going to be needed in the next session to help education? Because, you know, everybody, you cannot find anybody that is against education, right? I mean, that's going to benefit all of us in the long run. But can you put a number on it? Is it another $1 billion? What do you think it might be?
I think it's hard to put a number on it because every time we put a number, then inflation happens, right? And so that number is constantly changing. We had $2 billion that we added to the education budget, but we also had record inflation. So that money didn't go as far, especially when we're talking building materials or labor or those kind of issues. So I don't know that we can put a number. What I can say is I think that we need to keep chipping away. And I think the most important thing is we have a commission on school funding, which has studied this problem. They have created a plan for how we get to adequate funding within the next 10 years. And I think we just need to follow that plan.
What do you say to those, and you of course have heard this argument many times, that it's not the per pupil funding that is the big difference, that there are states that have a lower per pupil funding and yet have better results? What do you say to those folks?
I think that obviously we can't just throw money at the problem. I think that we need to make sure the money is getting to where it needs to be. That's why I really support targeted monies. I had a bill last session that would have targeted monies directly to class size and essentially penalize school districts if they had class sizes over a certain amount. So that way we're creating a monetary incentive to lower class size. So I certainly don't think it's just throwing money at the problem. I think it's throwing money at the problem and targeting that money to the places it'll be most effective.
I have to say that I think that as a taxpayer, that I am more willing to put money towards something that is a specific goal. For example, the RTCs in northern and southern Nevada both dedicated the gas tax to fixing roads. And I think for the most part, the roads in Washoe County, for example, are in terrific shape. And if you judge it by orange cones, the roads in southern Nevada are getting to be in much better shape as well. And so even though the price of gas went up because of that tax, I was not unhappy with that, and I wasn't driving out of the county to get a lower price on my gasoline because it was targeted. So I think that that is, the right approach. What are you going to be able to say as a legislature to Governor Lombardo in terms of the accomplishments of that $2 billion so far? Because he's saying that he wants to see the results.
I would say I think it takes time for money to trickle down into a system. I don't think that we are going to see a complete turnaround of our school system within 6 months of investing that money. I would also point out that there were several vetoes of his that I think hindered our kids' performance in school, not the least of which is going to be the lack of the school meals next school year. Kids cannot learn if they are hungry. And so I think that we need to look at how the money is being invested. We need to look at the results, but we also need to recognize, one, it takes time, and two, there are things that are going to hinder those results.
All right, be specific about which veto affected. Was it free school lunches, free school breakfast? What was it?
So there was a bill to fully fund free school breakfast and lunch, and that was vetoed by the governor.
And those kids at this point are no longer getting those meals?
So they are this school year. We had enough funds as a state to cover this school year, but next school year they will go off a fiscal cliff. And a lot of kids that are getting their meals at school, some of them getting their only meals at school, are no longer going to have access to that food.
And there's no other resource to be able to fill that gap?
There is title money from the federal government for some schools and some students that fill out the free and reduced lunch form. However, many families don't access that form. Many families don't want to fill out that form. There's a form of pride or shame that goes along with that. My school, for example, at North Valleys, we are not a Title I school because enough of our kids didn't fill out the form. However, I think by the poverty rates, we absolutely should be. And so our kids should be getting free meals under Title I, but they won't be because we don't qualify as that school. And so those kids will be struggling.
Okay, so I'm going to play devil's advocate and say, shouldn't that be part? And by the way, I want to say that teachers over the last couple of decades have become so many things to the kids that are way beyond just teachers. I mean, you have become family members. But let me add one more thing to the list, which is if the money is available, but people aren't filling out the forms, wouldn't it be prudent to help and get other parents involved perhaps to get these other families to sign up these forms so you are able to qualify without it coming from a state budget if it's available in a federal budget?
Right, and I think that that's a fair argument. However, the forms are very strict on the income requirements. A lot of students in poverty that will struggle with purchasing food may qualify for reduced lunch, but not free lunch. There's a lot of nuance within there. There's a lot of outreach in schools. I know in Washoe County, there's a huge push for exactly what you talked about of, okay, we're going on a fiscal cliff, let's at least get some federal money to come in and help with that. The problem is universality is so much simpler, it is so much clearer, it reduces any shame or stigma because students that are on free lunch are now separate from students that are paying for lunch, and so there's a stigma there as well for those students. And I think that there's a lot of families that are expecting food to be provided at school, as it has been for 4 years, that are suddenly going to be shocked and surprised on day one when they send their kid to school, expecting them to get fed lunch, and the kid comes home hungry.
All right, I understand what you're saying, but I mean, isn't that part of life? I mean, I don't know about you, but I know certainly my family and I had to go through all kinds of things as a kid growing up, and they weren't necessarily the happiest moments in life, but that's part of building character, wouldn't you say? So don't we need to get families and their kids adjusted to, well, you may not like this, but if you want the kid to get fed, then we need to fill out the form. You know,
Right.
I don't want to sound heartless, because I really don't mean that. Every kid should be fed. You know, I got no arguments about that. But if there's funding available, then I think that people's embarrassment has to go by the wayside to take advantage of the fact that there's food. This is the most basic thing on the planet.
And I think we're getting a little stuck on the form. I think that is some of the folks that need to access it. I would argue there's a lot more folks that need the food that wouldn't necessarily technically qualify for the federal money, which is the larger issue, I think. I also think you got to remember these are kids, and kids have varying levels of communication with home, especially I teach high school. Not all of those forms even get home for the parents to make that choice or that decision. And I think fundamentally, though, the issue is kids are being fed now, and kids will not be fed next year. And I think that will have a severe negative impact on not only food insecurity and child poverty, but our learning ability as more and more students are going to be coming to school hungry.
Okay, so one last point on this.
Yeah.
Obviously, there were 70 plus vetoes in the last session. There's the potential for there to be a majority for Democrats in both houses. If that doesn't work out, you're going to have to deal with Governor Lombardo. Does it not make sense that on certain issues like this, that there are conversations that are had to avoid those kind of vetoes? Because I don't see him as being a heartless person. I don't see him as somebody that wants to see a kid go hungry. So, I mean, are there not specific areas that you as legislators can work with the governor?
I mean, I would certainly hope so. I think there were many conversations last session about this issue and the several other vetoes, and I think many of those vetoes were a big surprise, even with those conversations happening. I will point out the governor's audit that just came out about the school system, and even his own auditors pointed out that this is going to have a severe negative effect on our students in our school system next year. I think that maybe surprised him, but I would hope that with that knowledge, perhaps he'll approach this differently next time and we can find a better result.
Is there a way for interim finance to be able to do something? Or does this have to go through a legislative session?
I know that they are doing their best to find whatever they can, but from my understanding, it has to go through the legislative session.
All right, let's take a break. More with Selena La Rue Hatch after this time out.
Retail's impact on Nevada's economy? Enormous. 8,600 businesses, large and small, employing 145,000 workers. And last fiscal year, retail paid tax on nearly $60 billion in sales. We're the Retail Association of Nevada. We support retail, we help it grow, and we mean business.
RANNV.org.
Pro Group Management specializes in providing industries with the necessary components to satisfy and exceed workers' comp requirements. Every business has unique needs and specific regulations. Pro Group Management stays ahead of the curve, providing up-to-date services to keep your industry in top form. Discover how we simplify your tasks, improve efficiency, and reduce expense to keep you moving in a positive direction. Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
Safety is the #1 priority for the trucking industry. Over $7 billion a year is spent on technology like this electronic eye that will apply the brakes automatically. But the most important factor for safety is the truck driver. These hardworking men and women who safely move over 70% of our nation's freight and 94% of Nevada's. We thank you because trucks move America forward.
What do you count on? You count on your power every day. At NV Energy, we've always powered what's important to you, but we're not looking at the past. We're focused on the future. While our standards are high, our rates will remain low. And our commitment to renewables isn't just meeting standards, but leading the way. Because you can count on more than just your power. You can count on the company who brings it to you. That's our promise. You can count on it.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with Selena La Rue Hatch. She's running for re-election to Assembly District 25. You mentioned White Pine County and funding for schools and things like that. They've got a $2.5 billion water project that potentially is going to happen there. Would that be, and water issues are one of the issues that you are very involved in. Will that project, if it goes through, be able to help in terms of taxes that would benefit White Pine County?
I think that's an excellent question, and I don't know the details of that project necessarily on the taxation side of it. I think that obviously they are pretty excited about having a project within the county. As far as the water side of it, I think it's important that we look at that water project and ensure that we are using the water wisely, that it is not being wasted. Obviously, with the driest state in the nation, we need to be especially careful about our conservation.
What is the biggest issue for you in terms of water that you would like to see resolved in the next legislative session?
I think we need to be looking at conservation, and I think that we need to be looking at how do we promote conservation while also protecting water rights. Our water law is extremely complicated. I won't bore your viewers with all of the nuance of it, but it dates back to the 1800s, and we need to adjust our thinking a little bit from an 1800s consumption mindset to a modern day conservation mindset.
Okay, how do you feel about interbasin transfers?
I am opposed to interbasin transfers. I think that we need to be using the water that we have the best way that we can. I think that most of our basins are already over allocated, many of them are over pumped, and so we need to be conscious of that before we are diving into interbasin transfers.
When you look at Las Vegas, now obviously they've done an incredible job through the Southern Nevada Water Authority, the Las Vegas Water District, in terms of conservation. I mean, the utilization and then putting it back into Lake Mead is an idea for the world to look at. Are they going to need to import water at some point? Because it looks like 3 million is not going to be the final total for the Las Vegas Valley.
So I've had extensive conversations with the Southern Nevada Water Authority on the exact efficiencies and conservation programs that you've discussed. They don't foresee that need because they have gotten so efficient at reusing that water. And I agree with you. I think that that is an example the world can study at water conservation. And I think that we as a state need to look at those successes. But I don't foresee them needing to ship in water as a result of that.
Now, you teach in the North Valleys. The reason the North Valleys is growing so much is because of the importation of water from Honey Lake. The housing there would not have been possible without that. Would you have been against that back, that's 30 years ago now, but
right.
The North Valleys would not have, 4,000 new homes going in if it weren't for that in a time when we desperately need new housing.
Right, and I think you bring up an important point. I think that when it comes to water, I'm not necessarily looking at it as a black and white issue. I think that it needs to be topic by topic. I think that it needs to make sense. I do think, though, we need to balance our housing with our resources. We cannot grow so much that we outgrow the resources that we have. And I think that if we are reaching that limit, then we need to be looking at efficiencies and we need to be looking at ways that we can obviously support housing because we need that, but also stay within the resources that we have available.
All right, let's take another break. We'll be right back.
Story County is leading Nevada. Home of the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, Google, Tesla, Panasonic, and other world-leading companies. Story County provides thousands of tech, advanced manufacturing, and logistics careers for Nevadans. We're diversifying and driving Nevada's economy and generating millions in tax revenue and billions in economic activity across northern Nevada. Story County is leading Nevada's future.
7 at 7 is a newscast built for your smartphone. It's a 7-minute newscast available every weekday at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. at lvrj.com. We don't waste your time, and we give you the day's top stories.
We at the RJ have noticed some similarities between us and a certain BTS character, RJ.
Plus the latest in Las Vegas business, weather, health, and entertainment news. 7 at 7 streaming now on your smartphone.
Welcome to the Winnemucca Big R. Hi, I'm John Walker. Welcome to Big R Lovelock.
Hi, I'm Rich Martin. Welcome to Fallon Big R.
My name is Braden. Welcome to Big R Fernley.
Hi, I'm Kelly. Welcome to Big R Sparks.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with Selena La Rue Hatch. She's running for re-election in Assembly District 25. How big of an influence do you believe statewide that independents and the Hispanic vote is going to be in this election?
So I think that both are key constituencies. I think they're going to be huge voting blocks within the next election. And to be honest, I think both care about a lot of the same things that all of us care about. They want access to quality health care. They want their kids to go to good schools. They want to find a place that they can afford to live, and they want to feel safe in their communities.
But here's the question, which is, A, as far as the independents go, are they really that big of a block, or are they just people that registered their cars and got put in as an independent? And which way do you feel the Hispanic vote is going to go?
So I think that independents and nonpartisans make up a huge variety of folks. I think some of them are the people that you just discussed, that maybe their registration, they didn't really check a box, and so they got defaulted to nonpartisan at the DMV. I think a lot of them, though, are checked out from partisan politics. I think they want leaders that are communicating with them and representing them, and not necessarily just voting a party line. And so I think those voters are candidate by candidate and issue by issue voters. And I think it's important that we're talking directly to them about the issues that impact them.
You've got a challenger in District 25. Will you come on and debate?
I absolutely will.
Okay, we would look forward to that. Thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome, and we'll be right back.
Imagine a magical garden that feeds Carson City's hungry and homeless, teaches our high school students agriculture, creates hanging floral displays to beautify downtown, and yet charges nothing. It's not magic. It's the Greenhouse Project. It's real, it's growing, and it needs your help. Go online to carsоncitygreenhouse.org so together we can grow it forward.
Calamity. It lurks around every corner. Or not. That's why UMC Quick Care is around every corner, with locations around the valley. UMC Quick Care, for all your small calamities.
Modern boutique Ahern Hotel and Event Center sits at the heart of the Las Vegas Strip. 2 floors of meeting and event space are ideal for groups and conventions. Stay in one of 200 luxurious rooms and suites. Brand your event throughout the property. Flexible event spaces make for easy planning and personalization. Take over the entire hotel with a full buyout option.
Thanks for watching Nevada Newsmakers. You can catch us online 24 hours a day at nevadanewsmakers.com, or you can download the podcast wherever you like to get your podcast. We'll see you on the next broadcast.